All right, guys, this is the final day of the year of movie watching. It's basically the New Year's Eve of the year of movie watching here on March the 7th. And last year I did a breakdown of last year's year of movie watching, and I'll go ahead and do it today. And as we break this down, I'm going to talk about, we're just going to go through each season, the year of movie watching, and I'm not going to focus on the must-watches. I'm not going to mention the must-watch films since they've been mentioned so many times during the seasons on the Whiteboard series, and then talked about the day after. So I'll kind of go through some of the ones that were maybe like the surprise films of the year. And if you go through and you do the math, we're talking about 345 total films. There were no days off in the year of movie watching. About 345 films. Started on March the 27th, 2025, and it's going to conclude tonight, March the 7th, 2026. So I'll go through and I'll talk about some of the seasons and the films, some of the memories. And just remember that at least half of these films were picked by one of you. So we did one for all the marbles for a lot of these. I didn't keep a record of that, but I would say about 60%, 65%, roughly in there, of the films were picked by one of you. All right, so with the exception of like the films that I call anchor films, pillar films, ones that are kind of like a stake in the year of movie watching, like kind of spread out, or like massive points of the year, and just those like must-watch films that are monumental in the year. I will not mention I won't talk about the other must-watches. All right, boys, so we started off the year on the 28th. I said 27th. March 28th, 2025, as we began the new year, the spring season of movie watching. Started off with, of course, one of our pillar films, because this is the first one, The Terror at Red Wolf Inn, 1972. It's becoming a classic opener for the year. April 5th saw A Night to Remember, 1958. Titanic film. Haven't done that one in a while. One of our pillar films, Against All Hope, 1982. Was around the 17th, I think, or the 19th of April. April 20th, Easter Sunday, Hill Number 1, Story of Faith and Inspiration, 1951. One of our others. We had April 24th, the National Football League Draft, 2025. Complete with our party, our annual party. That was a great one. It is a must-watch. May the 8th, Starship Live, 2025. That was a good one, a different one. May the 20th, Rattlers, 1976. May the 23rd, we saw Going All the Way, 1982, one of my favorite 80s comedies. And then to close out spring season of movie watching, on May the 31st, last day of spring season, What Should Happen in Small Groups, 1993. This is one that has to be a must-watch for the year, but as of right now, it does not have a rightful place. It does not have an official season as to where it is a must-watch. June season of movie watching. June 5th, Without Reservation, 1989. Interesting little 30-minute Christian film. And then we had our first and only Friday the 13th date of 2025 on June the 13th. And it was, our feature that day was a must-watch. And it was Friday the 13th, 1980. The original. Good to get that one in, and a perfect one to see for a June Friday the 13th. June the 17th, one of our pillar films. The great Brett Halsey in, and Joyce Meadows in The Girl in Lover's Lane, 1960. July season of movie watching was very memorable. It included a little optional 2 or 3 day period of the what we called the Christmas in July, and this was just an optional thing, and I decided to do it one night with the 1982 classic Raymond Briggs, The Snowman. Kind of cool watching that one. And then the 13th of July we did the Wimbledon men's final. Jannik Sinner defeating Carlos Alcaraz. That's Sunday, and a very memorable day. And then the 21st of July, The First Stone, 1993, getting back to that one. An interesting little hour, roughly long Christian film. A good little film. July 24th, Frisbee Boy Builds Community, 2021. Was a good one. Shot, produced, directed by General Peters, starring Kyle. And then we had the 31st of July to close out July season of movie watching. We had Next of Kin, picked by somebody. Next of Kin, 1982. Not the Patrick Swayze film, but the Australian horror film, rare film. Close out the July season of movie watching. And then we did the August season of movie watching with the 4th of August. Saw The Shelter, 1961. Good Twilight Zone episode. August 12th, What to Do on a Date, 1951. August 20th, we saw our second Friday the 13th film. Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday, 1993. Gave that one a shot. And then the 26th of August, one of our pillar films, one of my favorites, The Prey, 1983. Great film. Horror film. A rarity. The 28th of August saw When Strangers Appear, 2001. Very good New Zealand film. Little thriller there. And then we started the end of summer, beginning of fall season of movie watching. And on the 6th day of September, Lost Things, 2003. Another good little horror film, not very well known. 8th of September, Setting Up a Room, 1967, with school starting. And then one of our pillar films, the 19th September, The Appointment, 1991, Rich Cristiano film. 24th of September, we saw The Kiss, 1896, classic film. And then we moved into October, still in the same season though. Zack, 1983, was on October the 6th. October the 8th, we saw The Daylight Zone, 1986, Cristiano film. And then we closed, that was the end. We did the Horror Fest 2025 kicked things off. The earliest Horror Fest we ever had. Whoa, what's going on here? What's going on here? What the hell? Look at this, guys. Look at this. Look at this. What the hell? I got some canned stuff here, guys. It's of date, too. Split pea with ham and bacon. It is not expired. What else do we have? Sliced carrots. Cut green beans. Green Giant. I think this is expired, though. Nope, 2025, December 2025. That looks good. I'll have to come back and snag these. Good deal. All right. Back to the breakdown of the year of movie watching. Horror Fest, our earliest Horror Fest ever. We started on Friday the 10th of October with The Last Man on Earth. First time ever viewing, 1964. Great film with Vincent Price. We had Teenage Zombies, a very surprisingly good film, on the 18th. Teenage Zombies, 1959, a low-budget film. October the 21st, a very memorable one because that was a beach trip day, and Bear Scott won, Ocean won for all the marbles. Not only picked the food, which was Dairy Queen, but he also got to pick the feature for that Horror Fest for that night. And it was 1973. I haven't done that one in a long time in Horror Fest. 22nd, the next day of October, we did our third Friday the 13th film of the year, and it was Friday the 13th, Part 3 in 3D, 1982. We had one of our pillar films not long after that. One of our pillar films of the year of movie watching, The Devil Walks at Midnight, 1971. The 28th of October, Blade of the Ripper, 1971, a new entry. And then on October the 31st, we had, for the first time in the recorded history of Horror Fest, we had the feature Halloween 1978. And fittingly, it was on October the 31st. To close out an illustrious Horror Fest. Horror Fest was incredible in 2025, boys. We then moved on to the most vanilla and easily the most forgettable season of the year, which is now called the end of fall season of movie watching, that little 3-week period before Thanksgiving. And we had some pretty bad movies during that little period. This Lost in Silver Canyon, 1990. Blood on the Mountain, 1974. It's pretty crappy, even though it's got my boy Richard Jury. Consider It All Joy, 1986. Starts out pretty good, but it's really a snoozer. That was on the 22nd. And thank God we ended that little season. It is pretty bad. Even the off season is better than the movies that you can watch then. Is better than the end of fall season. Wow. All right. The Thanksgiving Fest saw Mama the Schoolgirl in 1977. Good Times episode, first ever entry into Thanksgiving Fest. Then we brought back Molly's Pilgrim on the 26th of November from 1985. Good film. Christmas Fest. We kicked things off with a newbie on the 1st of December called Christmas Snows, Christmas Winds. Mormon film, 1978. 9th of December, we did Silent Night, Blood, Deadly Night, Part 2, 1987. Silent Night, Deadly Night, Part 2. Not a bad one. The 13th of December, we had a couple of very good 1930s films for Christmas Fest. One was on the 13th called Santa's Workshop, 1932. And then on the 17th, Three Godfathers, 1936, the 1936 version. There's like 3 or 4 versions of this film. And then one of our pillar films, right before the annual Christmas John D. birthday party, on the 23rd of December, Santa Claus, 1959. Then we had our new season, which is a newly named season, which is called the End of Year, because we shortened Christmas Fest a little bit, cutting it off at the 25th. We had about a week period of which we call the End of the Year season of movie watching. This one had some must-watches to it, but one of the films was called Christmas Angel, 1904. The January season of movie watching. On the 21st, we saw Port of Hell, 1954. On the 25th, we saw the National Football Conference Championship game. That was a good one. From 2026, of course. And then the 30th, Free as the Wind, 1974. That was a really good one. I enjoyed Free as the Wind, Gordon Eastman. And then on the 31st, to close out the January season of movie watching, a first time ever viewing, The Fly, 1958. And that began a rush of all the other Fly movies, excluding the Fly 2 from 1989. It's the only one we didn't watch. So, Omen season, our final season, the year of movie watching, the 3rd of February, Return of the Fly, 1959. On the 13th of February, we had a must-watch. This was our 4th Friday the 13th film of the year. We watched Friday the 13th, the final chapter, 1984. On the 18th, we saw Friday the 13th, Part 5, 1985. We had on the 25th, so we had a total of, it's going to conclude with a total of 5 Friday the 13th for this year of movie watching. Definitely more than we had last time around. 25th of February, The Man Who Was Never Born, 1963, a very good Outer Limits episode with Martin Landau. And then on the 28th, last Saturday, a week ago, Bacterian, 1992, picked by Shock. Strange little film. On the 5th of March, Tuck Me In, 2014, Tuck Me In. And that brings us to the 7th of March, the final day of the year movie watching. It has been a great year, and we will conclude the year with Omen 4: The Awakening, 1991, which has kind of become our final closer of the year. So, it's been a great year of movie watching. I want to say thanks to everybody for doing One for All the Marbles and making diligent and, for the most part, well thought out picks. So you've been a big part of the season of movie watching. Hope you've had the year of movie watching. Hope you've had a great year of movie watching. And we will begin the next year of movie watching on the Friday, the 27th of March. So I'll see you then. Take care. Peace out.